Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio, this is St. Louis on the Air. I'm Alex Hoyer.
But this was the first time I just really directly addressed it to one of my kids. Yeah. I keep on hearing your voice. You can do one thing really, really well, but you're going to have a shorter shelf life with that.
What's that process like? You just hear something and then you try to put your own spin on it?
It really only works with a great song. That you can throw anything at that song, and the song holds up. Out on the street, the traffic starts jumping.
Norbert Leo Butz is a two-time Tony Award winner for Best Actor in a Musical. Also appeared in movies and TV shows. He's also a St. Louis native, Webster University graduate, and he's in town for a performance tonight at the Sheldon to celebrate his latest album called King of Hearts. Norbert Leo Butz, welcome to St. Louis on the Air.
Thanks so much.
I want to get to some of your acting credits in a moment, but let's get right to one of the songs on the new album, King of Hearts. This is Mission Bell.
Somewhere in a fever dream, you just decided to go. Put a backpack on, stole a credit card, tied the leash on a family dog, two refugees of the road. And I'm wishing you wishing you well, come here and tell you it's a hard way down. You land on the ground. Did you get what you need?
That's Mission Bell, performed by Norbert Leo Butz, who is with me here in studio. How did that song come together?
Oh my goodness. That song was written to one of my daughters. COVID was such a disruptor. I had all three of my girls home for under my roof for the first time in many, many years. And we played music all the time. It's something that we did it in the evenings to get us through. My oldest daughter's 26. Her name is Clara Virginia Davis, and she had written a couple songs. She's like, "Dad, are these songs any good?" And I said, "They're more than good. I'd like to record them." And I wrote a couple songs in response to her songs. So the record is sort of a conversation between a dad and a daughter. Is the genesis of the idea of it. So yeah, that's a song about some of the travails that we as parents go through when we have to sort of cut the apron strings from our kids and let them make their own mistakes in life and let them follow their own path. You know, the mission bell being representative of, you can always come back home when you need me, like the old mission bell churches in the Southwest desert and in Southwestern cultures, that was the idea.
Was that the first time that you had created art that was kind of a dialogue with your children?
100%, yeah. I mean, they've inspired other songs that I've written as well. A lot of songs that I write have to do with long-term marriage, parenting, aging, and mortality, things like that. So, yeah. But this was the first time I just really directly addressed it to one of my kids. Yeah.
What was the recording process like?
It was wild. So, as you mentioned, I am an actor. We wrote the songs kind of at the beginning of quarantine. But then I got a job. This was sort of pre-vaccination times in Vancouver, BC. I was up there for 8 months and could not cross the border back into the States. Mm-hmm. So I went 8 months without seeing my wife and kids. I was working on this science fiction program and I found a small studio called Blue Light Studio in Vancouver and did the basic tracks there. And then got another acting job. Music has always been that sort of thing that I've done between acting gigs, to kind of keep me feeling creative and working on things, So the basic tracks were done in Vancouver. That show ended, came back to Jersey and finished the record in New Jersey and New York, yeah.
So during the pandemic, was you creating this music then kind of a response to being by yourself at the time and just wanting something else to do?
I think so, 100%. I'm a bit of a shark. If I'm still too long, I get restless. And right now is a perfect example. I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild. We have been on strike since June. I've had no work in a while. And so I'm super grateful to be able to create music as well. It's the thing that I do to keep me feeling creative, keep me engaged, keep me interested.
Speaking of the strike, we heard earlier this week about an agreement that was reached with the writers. Are you optimistic that the strike might end soon? I
am. A lot of the same issues that the Writers Guild were bringing to the table have been almost parallel issues to the Screen Actors Guild, of which I'm a member, having to do with streaming and AI primarily. So since they have come to an agreement, it's looking really, really good for us. They're back at the table, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to be hammered out in the next couple of weeks, yeah.
Is there a particular project that you're involved that's on hold now because of it?
A couple, yeah. I have a film being released this week. I can say the title. I can't really promote it, but I'm in the new Exorcist sequel that's coming out on October 6th, and we've not been able to do any press for that. And I'm in the middle of shooting a series for Hulu as well. We got 2 episodes in the can, and we got 6 more to go. And so, fingers crossed, we'll be back to work.
Yeah,
soon.
Fingers crossed that the actors get a fair deal there.
Yes, from your lips.
So let's get back to the concert that's tonight at the Sheldon. What's it like to be back in your hometown?
Oh, man, it's so thrilling. It's so funny. On the way over to the studio today, I'm just fielding text messages and from high school friends and family friends. I'm from right here in South St. Louis.
Went to Bishop DuBourg?
I went to DuBourg. I have I'm the 7th
which year?
1990 I graduated.
Okay.
Oh, no. From high school, 85.
Okay.
Webster University, 1990, yeah. I'm the 7th of 11 kids. Most of my siblings are still here in St. Louis. And so, the audience will be filled. I think half of them will be Butzes, between my nieces and nephews and my brothers and sisters and high school friends and elementary school friends. And it's beautiful. First of all, the space.
Oh, the Sheldon is great.
It's incredible. Yeah. And if you're a singer, it's a singer's room. The acoustics in that room are almost unparalleled. So I'm thrilled about it. I'm really excited about this batch of songs. We're going to do the record and some other originals of mine and some really interesting covers that we have kind of turned upside down from the originals. And a wonderful friend of mine, Devin Cahill, and her band are opening up for us. She's a fantastic indie folk musician, local St. Louis girl. I can't wait. Can't wait till tonight.
Yeah, I was going to get to that a little bit later, but you mentioned some great covers. Let's get back to that. You have a cover on this album of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5. Let's take a listen.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pouring myself a cup of ambition, and I'm yawning, stretching, trying to come alive. Jump in the shower and the blood starts pumping. Out on the street the traffic starts jumping. And there's folks like me on a job from 9 to 5, working 9 to 5. Oh, what a way to make a living, working hard, barely getting by. It's all taking and no giving. Use your mind and you never get the credit. It's enough to drive me crazy if I let it. 9 fight for my service and devotion. You would think that I could get one goddamn promotion, try to get ahead, but the boss won't seem to let me. Swear sometimes that guy is out to get me.
That's 9 to 5, a cover of Dolly Parton, sung by Norbert Leo Butz, who's with me in studio. That is such a different interpretation, and I love the interpretation, but you think of Dolly Parton's original as being just more upbeat. What's behind the inspiration for this one?
Funny you should ask that. Something I love to do as a musician. I do love reinterpreting and rearranging songs. And the thing about that song and that artist, I think she is one of the great American songwriters. A great song is like a great piece of architecture. It's so solid in what the song is about, what the messaging is, the voice of the writer, that you can throw anything at that song and the song holds up. So I was in Vancouver. It was a very isolating time. Mm-hmm. I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about what an increase in the federal minimum wage would do for black and brown kids living in poverty. I think the estimate is somewhere between 40 and 50 million kids being lifted out of poverty with a federal minimum wage increase. So with that kind of going in my mind, I heard that Dolly Parton song, and I heard it in a whole new way. I heard it as a protest song for labor. Mm-hmm. During COVID, we found the value of essential workers. Right now, we're having a labor moment in the country. Right. I have 2 unions on strike right now, with auto workers up in Detroit.
And the Wentzville plant was one of the first to go on strike. I mean, and that's another thing. When I was listening to it, it seemed to strike a particular moment now because of the labor disputes that are happening.
I'm so glad you said that. And a great song will do that. That song is 40-something years old now, and it's open for interpretation. If you get to the meat and potatoes of that song, it's a cry from a worker. It humanizes the worker. In sort of a global economy, that's the thing it seems to be is getting most forgotten. So I'm thrilled with how the song turned out, and people are really responding to it. Yeah.
When you interpret songs, I'm sure there's many songs that you've done covers in your head. You've performed them in your bedroom or living room or wherever. You said that you like to do that. What's that process like? You just hear something and then you try to put your own spin on it?
Yeah, so through college and graduate school, I was an acting major, but I was moonlighting in bars and clubs, open mics. I busked in New York. I busked in Boulder, Colorado. And so you're always looking for just an interesting spin on a song. And it really only works with a great song. With a great song and a really great lyric. Like I said before, you can find new meaning in a song depending on where that song hits you. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of wait. Like tonight, I'm doing an interpretation of an old Fleetwood Mac song called "Go Your Own Way." That's as a piano
that's a
ballad,
great one too.
As a wildly different interpretation of the song, because it's when a song hits me. It's what emotional state I'm in when the song or the lyric of the song hits me, and then I hear a whole new way of doing it.
I mentioned in the intro that you are a 2-time Tony Award winner for Best Actor in a Musical. You won those for your roles in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels and Catch Me If You Can. You've also been in Rent, Wicked, My Fair Lady, and others. You've been in TV shows like Bloodline and films like Dan in Real Life. And you mentioned that you're in the movie that comes out soon, The Exorcist Believer. That's a tremendous amount of versatility. When it comes to those different roles, what do you find particularly to be the most challenging?
I get asked that a lot. I find all of it challenging. I think basically, actually, I'm just a restless spirit, and and I'm greedy. I'm greedy for new experiences. I've never been someone who's wanted to repeat myself. If I find myself doing a long run of a play, then I want to get on a film set. If I've been on a film set for a long time, then I want to get back in a music studio. I think that says more about my ADHD brain than anything else. And I feel very fortunate. I love switching mediums. I just love it. It keeps me hungry. It keeps me curious. And it's allowed me to have this career that's going on 35 or so years now. I have I tell student actors, sometimes I teach, and I really encourage them to diversify. You can do one thing really, really well, but you're going to have a shorter shelf life with that.
How do you do that, though? I mean, I can imagine that it's tough to make a break on Broadway, and then to be able to go from Broadway to TV to film. How do you do that?
I don't know. I trained. I did a BFA at Webster University, and then I went and did a further degree. I did an MFA at the University of Alabama. So I guess I just instinctually got myself skilled in several areas, because I think even I knew as a young person that I wasn't going to be satisfied just doing one thing. I write, so I've been wanting to publish a book of poems lately. It's just that says probably more about me than it does anything else in terms of my restlessness as a person.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to roles that are challenging, I was thinking of the Tony Award that you won for Catch Me If You Can, and you portrayed Carl Hanratty, which was portrayed by Tom Hanks in the film. Yeah. How do you approach something like that, where you have audience members coming in and they have a mind of have in mind how a character is to be portrayed, and then you're on stage and you are playing the role?
Yeah, well, I guess I got the stamp of approval from Tom himself. He came to the show early in previews, and he came backstage and really gave me the confidence to just take the role and run with it. He also wrote me a letter on his famous typewriter. He writes famous typewritten letters. And Tom Hanks is the person who actually named that character Carl Hanratty. It's a true story, Catch Me If You Can, about Frank Abagnale. You can see the Leonardo DiCaprio film. But the FBI agent that Hanks played in the film and I played in the stage version is an amalgamation of different FBI guys. He didn't really exist. And on the first day of shooting in the film, Steven Spielberg turned to Tom Hanks and said, "Hey, we got to name this character. He doesn't have a name yet." And Tom Hanks wrote me a letter and said, "I decided to name him Carl Hanratty. Hanratty for a football player that my father loved at Notre Dame, and Carl because it has a K sound in it and therefore is funny." Yours truly, Tom Hanks. So he was responsible for naming the character. That script was so good and the music was so good, I did feel I had the permission to just do my own thing with it. I didn't have to do a carbon copy of Hanks or anything like that. But I sure loved that project.
Yeah. So you're back in St. Louis again, concert tonight at 7:30 at the Sheldon, where you'll be talking about your latest album. When you come home, what are the St. Louis things that you like to do?
Oh, my gosh, I've already done a couple of them. I'm going to actually try to go to the last Cardinals game tomorrow if I can. I have another event tomorrow night, but I'm going to try to, a couple of my nephews are going to the game, and I'm going to try to tag along with them. I've already been to Ted Drew's, not once, but twice. Jesus, twice I've been to Ted Drew's. That's what our family does. We go to Ted Drew's and then we walk around Francis Park and we catch up. I'll also head down to the country. We have a place near Steelville, Missouri. I like to go down there and ride horses. I love being home.
Norbert Leo Butz is a St. Louis native, two-time Tony Award winner, and he's celebrating the release of his fourth album tonight at the Sheldon. The concert starts tonight at 7:30, and opening for him is St. Louis musician Devin Cahill. Norbert, thanks so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Today's episode was produced by our executive producer, Alex Hoyer.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
St. Louis on the Air proudly supports local artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.